So, John, man, it is a pleasure. I'm glad we were connecting here a second ago. We both had Wi-Fi issues here recently, but man, we got the podcast kicked off, and I am so excited to
Thank you.
have you on today, man. How are you, John?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm out in Colorado where it's gonna be 66 degrees today in the winter time, so that's weird.
Yeah, yeah, that is odd. I think it's colder here in Nashville where I'm at than
I
than
bet.
where you are in Colorado. So, um, send some of that warm weather my way. That's what I like.
I will
So.
do that.
But, John, it is an absolute pleasure. I have got your book here, QBQ, Question
Well,
Behind the Question.
yeah, but the question is, do you have the coffee cup?
I don't have a Yeti. I have a lot of Yetis, but I don't have a QBQ one.
All right, we'll work on that.
Yeah, Imma have to get that. I'd use it every day, and so,
Thank you.
yeah. Well, John, I shared this with you when I sent you a LinkedIn message last week, letting you know that this is my absolute favorite book I've ever read, QBQ.
Stop.
And I'm gonna give a shout
Thanks.
out to Kathy Miller. She'll be listening. She was one of my former bosses who actually gave me your book.
Now wait a minute. Kathy Miller is no relation to John Miller.
No, no.
Let's be clear on that.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. But Kathy's in Texas, and she had our whole entire team read your book, and we read it as a group. We talked about it within our kind of team there, and literally every single person who asked me for a book recommendation, QBQ is the first one I recommend to them. So
Love it. That's very
yeah,
kind.
so that
Thanks.
that gives you my excitement to be able to speak with you.
Woo.
That's it right there. But, John,
Ques
what
The question is though, Chris, wait a minute. The question is, have you read the sequel to QBQ?
no, so
Flipping the switch, huh?
I haven't. I haven't, and that to be honest, John, I was looking through, I didn't know you had all these books off
Yep.
of QBQ that you've also written, so
Yep, we've even got a book on parenting, unless you don't believe in accountable parenting,
yeah, yeah.
raising accountable kids.
So I mean, it's all about accountability, and so I'd like for you, John, just to talk about where you got like, where did you get the inspiration and when did you decide to write this book? Because it's been out and it's had an impact for a long time now,
Yep.
and you've written several books since
Well,
then, but where's
here's what's
the
funny.
origin story?
Yeah, sure, Chris. Here's what's funny. It's been out for many years, but we're in the 6th edition, and the publisher, which is now Penguin Random House, keeps finding it to be a profitable book because accountability is more important today than when we wrote the book. That's not quite the right way to say it. It was always important, but it's more needed now than ever. I was talking to an Garden manager the other day who knows of me. That's all. And he said, right there in the restaurant, "Are you still out speaking and training and selling books?" I said, "Yep, nothing's changed. We're still in business." And I said, "It's not like accountability isn't needed today." And he paused and think about what a restaurant manager does all day long. Not just manage people, but recruit, recruit, recruit. And he just paused and said, "There's absolutely no reason why personal accountability isn't of greater need today than it was 10 years ago." And Steve, you're right. You are completely right. It's more needed today than ever. So QBQ is all about personal accountability. And here's where it came from. I spent about a decade, Chris, selling management training in Minneapolis, St. Paul. When I mean selling or say selling, I really mean selling. I mean, getting on the phone. This was long before, spamming people on LinkedIn.
Or cold calling.
And this is long before email, and this was long before texting and social media. I had to pick up the phone every day, 60, 70 phone calls a day to get appointments with executives in Minneapolis, St. Paul, go out, meet with them face to face, present our wares, and sell them on coming to a management training workshop that my mentor had created. And I was going to facilitate that workshop. I was only 27 when I started. And so I went out and I started selling. I sold well. I sold a lot of tickets. I started running these sessions. And this is the key. I started listening. And it took maybe a decade, but I finally figured out how easy it is to ask the wrong questions. Like, why do we have to go through all this change? When is someone going to train me? Why can't that department do its job right? When am I going to get more coaching? Why don't they pay me more? Who stuck me on this lousy shift? When is the customer going to understand we're the best? And I remember sitting there thinking, there's got to be a better question. And one day I went over to a client after 9 years of selling from my mentor. I went over to one of my clients. I said, here's an idea. How about we turn those questions around? Instead of asking, when is someone going to train me? How about asking, what can I do today to develop my own skills and abilities? Instead of asking, when is that department going to do its job right? How about asking, how can I best serve the other department? And I said, let's call it the question behind the question. Let's ask that, the question behind the question. And at some point early on, somebody shortened it to QBQ, and I really don't remember if it was a client or me. And that's when it took off because we all love a good acronym. And I
Good
mean, just ask
acronym. Yep.
IBM. And QBQ took off, and we started selling speaking engagements around QBQ and personal accountability. And then we started writing books, and here we are all these years later. And I have a daughter who's probably older than you are, born in 1983, who actually goes out and does this as well. And she's been doing it since 2008. So 17, 18 years. Kristen has been speaking on QBQ. So how wonderful it is to have a millennial
Yeah.
out there saying, hey, let's not be entitled. Let's not play victim. Let's practice personal accountability. So that's kind of the backstory and where we are today, QBQ.com. We sell training. We do speaking engagements live. We sell books. That's what we do.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. That's incredible, John. I always kind of wondered again because your book. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a shortage of individuals and teams and organizations that need to practice this personal accountability. I mean, we all do. I read your book. Yours is one of the only books I usually read it in January every year.
Wow. Thank you.
Just to kind of reset, to make sure I go into the new year with my team and who I work with and kind of put myself in the personal accountability boat and see how I can help others and kind of be an example. And I've probably bought each edition of your book because every time someone asks for it, I try to buy it and I give it to them. Even
Thanks.
even my leadership at the company I work with, I've given your book to them if they ask for
Wow.
a good recommendation. So I've shared it a
Thank you.
lot. But you're right, there doesn't seem to be a shortage of individuals or teams that could really use some guidance in this area,
Right.
maybe more
All
than
of us.
ever.
Yep. Well, here's the issue, personal accountability, hey, judge not lest ye be judged. I mean, when is that new? That's not new, right? But the easiest thing to do in the world is to look around at our colleagues, our friends, our family, our spouses, and say, why don't they do something different? Instead of saying, well, what can I do today to be my best? And the whole key to the QBQ book is recognizing that I can change only me. I should focus on only me. And today I will strive to be my best and not play the victim game, the procrastination game, waiting for others to take action, or the finger pointing game, which of course we call blame. I mean, it is blame. So, the book really covers three traps, as you know: blame, victim thinking, and procrastination. Let me just give your fine audience a little tutorial here. When we are asking why questions that have a pity party tone to them, like, why is this happening to me? Why don't I ever get a break? Why can't we find good people?
Yeah.
All we're doing is playing victim.
Mhm.
Instead of right now asking, well, what can I do to move forward? What can I do to be my best? What can I do to find good people? What can I do as a manager to train more effectively my
Yeah.
people? So why questions tend to take us to victim thinking. The when questions tend to take us to procrastination, which we define in the QBQ book as the friend of failure. You want to get out of bed in the morning and fail? Just start asking, when will they handle this? When will someone else solve this problem? When will they improve this place? When will they get back to me? When will the customer return my call? When questions take me to nowhere. I'm procrastinating. I'm waiting for someone else to
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah.
And then, thirdly, the blame trap sounds like who done it? Who dropped the ball? Who missed the deadline? Who made the mistake? Who gave me these people? Oh, wait, I hired them.
Yeah.
And that's just blame. The book teaches us how to avoid why, when, and who questions and ask questions that begin with what or how and contain the personal pronoun I. I mean, we've been talking about pronouns long before the world started talking about pronouns, Chris.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
talking about the I
Yeah.
pronoun. What can I do today to be my best? How can I improve me? What skills can I acquire? So that's a little bit of a tutorial on QBQ. And all I know is it's life changing and I needed it. I wrote it. People say, why'd you write the book? Well, because I needed it. Because I've been married 45 years, seven
Yeah.
kids, all with iPhones. They text me all day long and 15 grandchildren, Chris. So, I need to
Wow.
be accountable. I need
Yeah.
to practice personal accountability. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, and, one of the main messages I was taking from all that was take action. Don't
Yes.
you spoke about procrastination. That was one of the first lessons I took from it was just take action. Because again, I was in a larger company, I was asking a lot of those questions like, why can't we do this? Why can't we get this done? And I remember our team reading this and then me kind of switching that and just taking initiative to go ask questions and go figure things out on my own and just me take responsibility and accountability. And then all of a sudden, the whole team started doing that and things just started getting done and we were getting
Yep.
traction at
Good.
places and everyone was we were talking about this. We were like, QBQ, man, QBQ, let's go, And so it became like a motto, which was awesome. It was a small team, 7 or 8 of us, but we were all in different departments. And it was really cool how we got to all read this together and kind of put it in there. It leads me to another question, John, because you've been doing this now for a couple decades. Your daughter's doing this now. Is there ever a moment where sometimes it gets a little frustrating, because you're always
Didn't I tell you I've been married 40?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, because it's something. It's so easy, and people can say like personal accountability. Yeah, duh. We know we should do that, but again, I have to read it every year. You were talking the same thing. You always need reminders. But do you ever get discouraged just where the world's at from a
Yeah,
personal
sure.
accountability standpoint, and wondering like, hey, how can I do more? Like, how am I getting this? How can I get this message out there because we need it so much?
Right. To quote the great philosopher Michael Jackson, it really is all about the man in the mirror. Sure, the world has changed. I mean, I was born in 1958. How much has the culture of our world changed since then? A lot, especially since I started working in 1980. I came out of Cornell University. I got my first corporate job. We moved to Minnesota. Karen and I did. We grew up 5 miles apart in Ithaca, New York, and we moved to Minnesota. She was 19, I was 22, and I was gonna work for that company till I was 65 and get a gold watch. 5 years later, I thought, "This is not for me." I got out and started selling. And yeah, the world has changed, and it's easy to be kind of disappointed, disillusioned, and disgusted with some of our culture today, but it is quite refreshing to remember the man or the woman in the mirror. There's nothing else I can really do other than work on me. How do I perform in life? How do I respond to the people around me? People put up these memes, be kind today. Well, you know what? Why don't you just be kind?
Yeah,
And I'll be kind. Stop trying to slam and shame the world to be kind. The kindness starts with me, not
yeah,
with your meme on Facebook.
that's right. That's
Personal
right.
accountability is refreshing. We say in the QBQ book something that sometimes people will disagree with. My own sister, who's in her 70s now, fights me on this, but stress is a choice. I can be frustrated, disappointed, angry. Those are real feelings. There's nothing wrong with them. But my thoughts do drive my emotions. So, if I just think that Chris is a bad guy, I'm going to have a negative emotion when I see you. If I change my thought, Chris is a good guy, I'm going to have a positive emotion when I see Chris. So it all begins with our thoughts. And when we start focusing on self, how can I change me? The stress dissipates because it is truly the only thing I can control. Now, if you're a parent, nobody said on this interview, don't or stop parenting. Nobody said stop parenting. Do not stop parenting. In fact, parent more strongly. Stop with the gentle parenting stuff where the kids get to do whatever they want all day long and they are your boss. Start taking control of your families. Nobody said just because you're working on you that you don't parent effectively, or managers. Nobody said on this interview stop coaching, counseling, and sometimes terminating. But it all begins with, like, for a manager, what can I do to be a more effective coach today? For a mom or a dad, what can I do to learn new skills and stop winging my parenting, but actually learn how to parent effectively? It all begins with me. So, as you can tell, I can go on and on this topic. But if you want to reduce your frustration, your disappointment, your anger, start looking at self and saying, okay, what can I do to let go of something that I can't control? What can I do to change me? How can I be my best today? Stress is a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thinking of this kind of goes in with Mel Robbins. She wrote a book, Let Them Be, or Let Them Theory. And I kind of incorporate both of these, the personal accountability along with letting other people be the way they are, because you can't
Hmm.
change that.
Right.
But again, that goes right back to how can I react? What can I do to make myself better? And hopefully that rubs off on others. with the way that I'm going about my day and just my life. But this kind of perfectly segs, John, into your other books because, again, I haven't read them. I wasn't aware that I've been so involved in QBQ and just reading that
Well,
every year.
if you haven't read this book, then you're just not outstanding.
You did well. It's on the list now. But I
I know
wanted you
what
to
you're
talk about
thinking.
that and how you transitioned in,
Well,
branching off QBQ into
sure.
these other areas.
Yeah, sure. Well, they all have a theme of accountability.
Mhm.
The most unique one would be the book, the newest book called Outstanding 47 Ways to Make Your Organization Exceptional. You know what those ideas resulted from? Me sitting inside organizations for a decade, watching and listening and noticing what worked and what did not work inside organizations. So that's where the book Outstanding came from. I mean, everything from training managers. A lot of managers don't get trained, they just get promoted. And so in this book, we impress upon people the importance of teaching managers people management skills,
Mhm.
not leadership. Now, no, don't get me wrong. Leadership is a great idea, but it begins with knowing how to manage another human being, how to praise, how to encourage, how to define their job, how to coach, how to confront. Sometimes you have to terminate, whatever. So, in the Outstanding book, we're going to get on important management stuff like, train your managers, but other stuff like keep the mission top of mind. If you're a really successful or an outstanding organization, everybody in the company knows why this organization exists. Keep the mission top of mind. Forgiveness between departments. Think about where that came from. QBQ deals with the finger pointing between departments. In the Outstanding book, we're going to teach the importance of forgiving mistakes within your own organization because, hey, we're all on the same team.
We gotta work together.
So that's where the Outstanding book came from. Flipping the Switch is an extension of QBQ. It deals with 5 principles like learning, service, trust, creativity, and ownership. And that book uses the QBQ methodology for bringing those principles to life. And then the parenting book, just a lot of practical ideas. Karen and I have raised 7 kids, got the 15 grandkids. And earlier I kind of mocked the whole gentle parenting thing. I apologize if I offended anybody, but truly, if your child's emotions are ruling your home, get our book, okay? Because kids don't want to be the boss. Back in the 80s, there was that TV show all about being the boss, right? Let's not have a family where the kid is the boss. Let's make sure parents still realize they are in charge. It's their job to grow their children, provide discipline, provide structure, teach well, share our values, all those good things. Do not leave it up to the schools or the soccer coaches or the church. That is my job. And here's the key to the Raising Accountable Kids book. I'm going to hit you with it, Chris. My child is a product of my parenting, period. I must take accountability for how I parent and what my kids are doing and saying. We can't keep saying, my kid is doing bratty things because, she's strong willed. No, no, no. How about learning how to discipline in that moment? And by the way, when I said discipline, I did not say spank. So nobody please come back to me and say, you said we should spank our kids. No, I never said that. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. Move on. Move on.
Well, I'm sitting here trying to think, I don't have kids, but I have friends who have kids, and I'm like, "How can I get this book to them?" Not, where it doesn't come from a bad, it comes from love, "Hey,
Right,
you
right.
make good use of this book. It may, help you guys out a little bit."
Well, you know what? Let me just bounce off that for a sec. Sometimes people say, "How do I give QBQ away without offending people?" Well, here's how you do it. Hey, Chris, I've been reading this book. In fact, I've read it twice, and I really want to. I want to practice this. So, could you read it now and let me know how I'm doing practicing it? You'll take it from me, and you go, "Yeah, boy, I can't wait, John. I'm going to read this and make sure you're practicing it." And about by page 22, you're going to start to say, "Oh, this is for me."
Mhm.
I had a pharmaceutical sales manager who came up once and said, I totally did it wrong. And I said, let me guess. You handed the book to your sales team and you said, you need this.
Mhm.
She said, yep, that's how I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, I'm just thinking back, I had such a great leader, Kathy, shout out again, who brought this to the team, and the way she presented it was kind of just like, "Hey, we're all in this together, let's see what we take from it." And, we kind of went around and pulled ideas, what it meant to this
Great.
person,
Thank
that
you.
person, and we were all able to kind of, bounce that off each other in a way that it didn't seem like she was like, "Hey, you guys better read this and figure
Good for
figure this
Kathy.
out," So it was presented in the right way that you do it as well, and I think that's why, I gravitated towards it so much. I was like, "Man, this is awesome." Like, we can accomplish so much if we'll all kind of take this approach, and so, no, it's amazing.
Now, I will
John,
say
I've got
this, when you bring QBQ into an organization, it can become part of the common language and actually add some fun. And you
mhm,
can sit in a meeting and someone can say, "Well, when are they gonna expand our budgets?" And someone else could say, "Hey, that's not a QBQ."
good
And
question.
everybody will laugh and say, "Yeah, you're right. Let's turn that into a QBQ. How
Yeah,
can I work with the budget I have?"
yeah,
Feel the difference?
yeah,
So it when you bring QBQ into an organization, it becomes part of a culture, it's effective and fun. It
yeah.
really is.
Yeah. How do you balance, I guess now, I mean, did you ever think this was going to be what it became? When you had this idea, did you ever
Yeah.
foresee this happening?
No author can predict that you're gonna sell 1,000,000 books. It's just I mean, that's pretty arrogant to say, "I'm gonna sell 1,000,000 books." Maybe some of your viewers will say, "No, that's just confidence." No, I never dreamed this would happen, but
Did you ever want it though? Like, did it organically happen or did you see in a vision like, hey, this can be something massive where we can do some amazing
this
things
was
with
it
it?
was never a vision or a dream at night. See, I came out after 10 years of selling training, and I was in front of small groups all the time, and people were starting to say, "You're a pretty good speaker. Maybe you should just go out and do this on your own. Leave your mentor, go do it on your own." So I left my mentor in 1995 and I started speaking. And by 97, a little company called State Farm had found me.
Cool
And
little company.
yeah, suddenly I had done 72 talks for State Farm around the country on personal accountability in the QBQ. And it was in Charlottesville, Virginia during a session where two people ran up to me and said, "You have got to put this QBQ stuff into a book." And I said, "Ugh, do I have to?" Yeah, I didn't really wanna write a book, I didn't think I could write a book, and so we came out with a book that year, in '98 or so, called Personal Accountability. That's it, that was the whole title. Powerful and practical ideas for you and your organization. Lots of good stuff. However, Chris, 300 pages, and right about then, a book called Who Moved My Cheese hit the market. And now people were running up to me saying, "Have you read Who Moved My Cheese? I read it in 20 minutes." And I'm thinking, "That pleases you? Like you met a goal, you read a book in 20 minutes?" So I fought it for a while, but finally I said to myself, "We need to take the original book called Personal Accountability, 300 pages, and we need to downsize it." And so we extracted from that original book the QBQ, and we came out with a 1-hour read kind of book, and that's, Chris, when it just took off, and we sold 300,000 copies in paperback.
Yeah.
Then Penguin Random House bought it from us, and guess what they had published? Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Penguin bought it from us, and they put it in hardcover. It's no longer in paperback. So it is very, very rare that a book goes from paperback self-published to hardcover published, and there's no more paperbacks. You can't get it in paperback unless you find some old one at a thrift store. So I never dreamed it would do this, but more importantly, if I could just say this, Chris, I did not expect it to filter into so many, let's think English muffins, nooks and crannies. So many nooks and crannies of life. We've got a veterans group in Florida that's hosted by a psychologist who works with the VA and veterans. And we're talking veterans from Vietnam and then later, and they have been studying QBQ. And I've got an email right here in my stuff from Ivan where he said, "My wife got this book first at work and I ignored it. When we decided to read it as a VA, a veterans group, and I read it, I realized it's exactly what I needed because I had been whining and playing victim. I needed a QBQ methodology to stop my brain from saying me and start asking, what can I do?" So I never expected that. Then I get word from pastors that they're using it in prison programs. So QBQ has seeped its way into some penitentiaries. And then, of course, parents were using it for their children. Just yesterday, I mailed 2 books out to an old friend who he wanted the book signed to Gwyneth and Allie, his granddaughters. So here's a 65-year-old grandfather who wants his 18-year-old granddaughters reading QBQ. So those are the things I did not expect. Church, even though my dad was a pastor and we're Christians here, I didn't expect churches and prison systems and veterans groups to be buying it and implementing it. But that's what's happened.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you decided to write the book because Well, it's had such a you were already having an impact by talking to organizations and teaching and
Oh,
discussing that,
thank
but it would have never made its way to someone like me without,
Right,
the book being written and our team and
right.
all these places that you talked about, so it's an incredible thing that you were able to write the book and it have such
Thank
an
you.
impact that it does now, and so, yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
for doing that, and thank you for writing all these other books too because they're having an impact, as well.
Thank you.
John, I've got one more question for you,
All right.
and you've written these books now, and I guess there's 2 questions. Do you still find time yourself to read, books? And the ones you read, are they also personal development, accountability type books, or do you read, different, I don't know, fiction for enjoyment? What type of books
Again,
do you read?
I'm gonna be a contrarian here and challenge some of your listeners who have bought into all leaders are readers. Not true, because we learn differently. So anybody who's shaming their team with leaders are readers, meaning you must stop. Recognize that people learn differently. Okay. So at this age, I pick up ideas from, not kidding, television shows. There might be a key line in a crime or a detective show, and I'll capture that and I'll think, okay, how can I use that? How can I benefit from it? How can I practice it myself? Also, skimming the web, surfing the web, whatever. So, right now in my life, I'm not reading a lot of books, but that doesn't mean I'm not learning. I learned by talking to my son-in-law who runs a Serve Pro franchise based out of Nashville, Serve Pro. He runs that franchise. I learned from him. My son runs a wedding videography company, and he's out interacting with clients every day. I learned from him. So I learned by engaging with people,
Yeah.
surfing the web, watching a few TV shows, but I'm not much of a reader right now at this point in my life. But I will say this, when I was reading thick organizational books. Like, I mean, these probably won't even ring a bell with you, or not because you're not smart, but because it's so long ago. But The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge. That was a book that came out around 1990. Books like that were all about organizational culture. When I was reading actively, those are the kinds of books I was reading. People would say, "Well, I'm sure you've read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, right?" And I have always said, "Nope, I tried, I couldn't get into it."
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a
No.
long answer to your question, but I just want to impress upon your audience that people do learn differently. So as long as they're learning, don't ever shame them for not reading.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely, and there's never been a better time to learn and get information. You
Well,
can if you wanna
well,
learn
these
something,
kids
you
don't
can find it in
understand.
seconds.
Yeah, okay, you're not a kid, but hey, dad, I'm 67. My daughter Molly will say, "Dad, do you know blah, blah, blah?" And I'll say, "Google it."
Google it.
And then I'll tell her, "Do you realize when I was your age, we had to walk over to the encyclopedia on the shelf and open it up and try to find that topic? Or I had to go to the Tompkins County Library in downtown Ithaca, New York and look for a book? Oh my gosh, there's so much knowledge at your fingertips." Sorry, I'm yelling into my mic here. There's so much knowledge. So now, I mean, she's 35 with 5 kids, and she says, "Well, I don't have time to Google it. It's easier to ask dad."
My favorite is my wife and I on the couch, and she'll have her phone in her hand, and she'll ask me a question, and my literal thought is like, "You could just type it out right
Yeah,
there and
that's right.
get it quicker than me."
Right, right. Yeah, let's not go any further with that because my wife, I could give you some examples of the same thing, okay?
Yeah, she'll laugh at that one because she does it all the time. I'm like, "Just Google it. I don't know. I don't know what you're asking me for." No, John, this has been such a pleasure, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on here and talk about your book. Because again, I've recommended it to so many people. It's one of my favorite ones. Actually, I was looking on Amazon. I bought it for a friend of mine just in September this year. So just
Hey,
recently, I've given it to a friend,
thank you.
and I'm sure I've got it here. Obviously, I'll read it again here within a few weeks to start off 2026. No, keep doing what you're doing. It's obviously having an impact on people all over.
Can I
It's
can I
amazing.
interrupt can I
Yes,
interrupt your
sir.
close by saying one more thing, Chris? Okay,
Absolutely.
thanks. The number one thing, Dave Ramsey's in Nashville there with you, and I've been on his show a few times, and he would always close the interview with, "John, what's the number one takeaway for people who read your book?" And I'd say, "Dave, nothing new. I can only change me." That is the power of QBQ. We pick up a book thinking it's for my wife. We go to a training session thinking it's for my colleagues or my coworkers. The day we start realizing I can only change me, marriages get better, parent-child relationships get stronger, work relationships improve. Everything's better when I realize that truth. Stop trying to fix others. I can only change myself. End of story.
That's right. Well, we'll leave it at that, John. We
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.